Jataka Sleep Stories, Episode 2, Vanupatha Jataka, Untiring. Deep they dug. Before we travel back into the mists of the past, we must first find ourselves in the present, or at least the present of 2,000 years ago. Imagine the Jataka monastery in the deep, velvet stillness of a tropical night. The air is thick and humid, yet a gentle breeze occasionally wanders through the open corridors, carrying the scent of damp moss and the cooling earth of the monastery gardens. Imagine the silence here. It is not an empty silence, but a heavy, resonant quiet that seems to hold the weight of 1,000 years of wisdom. The shadows of the banyan trees stretch across the swept sand paths like long, dark fingers, moving so slowly that the eye cannot perceive their motion. In this space, time does not race, it lingers, it breathes. In one of the small stone-walled cells, a monk is sitting. His name is not recorded for us, but his heart is heavy with a weight we all know. He has been practicing for many months, trying to find the stillness of the mind, yet his thoughts remain like a swarm of restless bees. He feels defeated. He feels as though the path is too long, the desert of his own mind too wide. He has decided to give up. He has packed his few belongings, his heart hollowed out by despair. The other monks, seeing his sadness, lead him to the great teacher. Imagine the walk through the monastery. Their feet make a soft shh sound on the swept sand paths. The moonlight filters through the banyan leaves, casting lace-like shadows on their saffron robes. They arrive before the Buddha. He is sitting under a canopy of stars, his presence as grounding as a mountain. He looks at the discouraged monk with eyes that see the beginning and the end of all things. A young man sat among the elder monks, his head bowed, his shoulders heavy with the burden of his own perceived failure. He had come to this place seeking the light of understanding, but in the solitude of his meditation, he found only the shadows of his own doubt. He felt like a traveler who had walked for days across a parched landscape, only to find that the road ahead was longer and drier than the one behind. His heart was like a well that had run dry. He had decided in the quiet depths of his own mind that he was not strong enough for this path. He had decided to turn back. The Buddha looked upon this young man with eyes that were like deep, still pools of water. He saw the struggle, the heat of the doubt, and the coldness of the despair. He began to speak, and his voice was like a low, rhythmic vibration that settled into the very bones of everyone who listened. The Buddha asked, "Is it true, brother, that you have given up your heart's work? Have you truly decided to turn back when the water is just beneath your feet?" The monk replied with voice trembling and weary, "Lord, I have tried. I have sat through the heat and the cold. I have watched my breath until my lungs felt like paper, but I find no peace. I am like a man lost in a desert with no stars to guide him. I have no more strength to dig." The Buddha then said, Long ago, brother, it was the perseverance of a single man that saved 500 lives from the jaws of the desert. In that time, even when the shovels hit solid rock, the wise did not despair. Listen now to the story of the sandy road and find the strength that is already inside you. The Buddha spoke of the sandy road. He spoke of a time when the world was younger and the deserts were wider, and the strength of a single heart was the only thing that stood between life and the encroaching dust. We leave the monastery behind. The sounds of the monks fade, replaced by the deep, rhythmic thud of a city waking up. We are in ancient Benares. Imagine the city of Benares as it was in those ancient days. The morning sun is rising, but it is not a harsh sun. It is a soft, golden glow that illuminates the dust motes dancing in the air above the bustling market. We see the Bodhisattva, the wise merchant, standing in the center of a vast courtyard. Imagine the wise merchant, the Bodhisattva, standing on a high balcony overlooking the city square. He is a man who moves with the grace of an old forest. He is not just a trader of goods, he is a trader of safety. He knows that to cross the desert is to enter a contract with the earth itself. Around him are 500 wagons. Consider the scale of this caravan. 500 wooden frames built from the strongest teak and rosewood, seasoned by the wind and the sun until they're as hard as stone. The wheels are as tall as a man, bound in thick iron rims that have been hammered into place by the city's finest blacksmiths. This is not the hurried chaos of the foolish. This is the slow, methodic dance of the wise. Listen to the sounds of the preparation, the rhythmic thud, thud, thud of hammers striking wood, the low, melodic lowing of 1,000 oxen, their breath forming soft clouds of mist in the cool morning air. The oxen are magnificent beasts, their coats the color of charcoal, of cream, of deep mahogany. Their muscles ripple under their skin like the surface of a river. They stand patiently, their large liquid eyes reflecting the busy scene around them. The wise merchant walks among them, his hand resting briefly on the flank of one, then the shoulder of another. He feels the warmth of their life, the steady beat of their hearts. He speaks to his head driver, a man named Ananda, whose skin is like dark leather, and his eyes are sharp with the experience of a dozen crossings. Ananda, the merchant says, his voice a calm, grounding force. Come here, look at the horizon. The haze is thick today. The sandy road will be shifting beneath the wheels. Are the iron rims checked? Are the water jars double sealed with the blue wax from the southern hills? The axles are silent as silk, master, Ananda replies, and the water is guarded as if it were liquid gold. Every ox has been fed the sweet clover to build their strength. But the men, they whisper. They say the waste is hungrier this year. They say the 60 leagues feel like 100. They are uneasy. They look toward the horizon where the Vanupatha begins. They say the sandy road is shifting. They say the wind is carrying the scent of a long drought. The desert does not move for those who know their center, the merchant says. The desert is only as long as the fear in the mind, Ananda. Tell the men to load the heavy timber. We shall carry our own fire. We shall carry our own water. We shall carry our own courage. We shall not move until the first star salutes the moon. Imagine the loading of the carts. Spend a long time in your mind picturing the texture of the goods. There are bundles of raw cotton, soft as clouds, being pressed into wooden crates. There are jars of fragrant oils, sandalwood, jasmine, and cedar, whose scents leak out into the warm morning air. The men move with a deliberate slowness. Each rope is knotted 3 times. Each ox is patted on the flank, its warm, coarse fur a comfort to the hands of the drivers. The caravan departs as the sun begins to set. This is a deliberate choice. In the Vanupatha, the sand is like hot coals during the day. It would scorch the feet of the oxen and the soles of the men. So they wait for the moon. Imagine the long, slow exit from the city. The wooden wheels creak and groan as they begin to turn. Creak, thud, creak, thud. It is a hypnotic rhythm, a heartbeat that will continue for 60 leagues. As the city walls fade into the dusk, the world becomes a vast indigo.
The desert begins gradually. The green grass of the riverbank turns to yellow scrub. The scrub turns to gray pebbles, and then there is only the sand. It is a sea of silver dunes stretching out into the darkness forever. The moon rises, a great pale orb that turns the world into a landscape of frost and shadows. The air is cool now, smelling of nothing but dry stone and the infinite space of the sky. The land pilot takes his seat on the lead wagon. He is an old man who has lived his life by the light of the stars. He does not look at the path, for there is no path. He looks at the navigator star, the blue-white diamond that sits motionless while the rest of the sky rotates around it. As long as he keeps that light in its proper place, the 500 wagons will move in a straight line toward the distant horizon. The land pilot whispering to himself, "Steady, old heart. There is the navigator. Keep her over the left shoulder of the lead ox. Don't look at the dunes. The dunes move. Look at the light that stays." The merchant walking beside the pilot's wagon asked, "How does the air feel to you tonight, pilot? Is it dry, or is there a hum in the wind?" The land pilot replied, "It is dry, master, dry as a scorched bone, but the stars are bright. We shall make 10 leagues before the sun rises. The men are sleeping in the back of the carts. The rhythm of the wheels is their lullaby." The merchant replied, "Let them sleep. The desert requires a rested heart. I will walk for a while. I want to feel the sand beneath my feet. I want to hear what the waste is telling us." Imagine the Bodhisattva walking in the silver darkness. Each step he takes sinks deep into the cool sand. The silence of the desert is absolute, broken only by the rhythmic breathing of the oxen, a deep, wet whoosh, whoosh of air. The stars above are so bright they seem to be vibrating.
He watches the way the moonlight reflects off the brass ornaments on the oxen's harnesses, casting tiny dancing sparks across the dunes. For many nights they travel in a dream of movement. The sound of the sand under the wheels is a constant shifting whisper. It is the sound of the world's breath. The men walk in a trance, their eyes fixed on the silver dunes. They do not talk. They listen to the rhythmic chiming of the bells on the oxen's necks. Clink, chim, clink, chim. It is a sound that measures the night, a sound that keeps the mind from wandering into the vastness of the dark. They reach the 59th league. The air is warm, and the moon is heavy and golden. The men are tired, but their jars are full. Their hearts are steady. They can almost taste the green air of the city on the other side. The men are light-hearted, for they believe the journey is almost over. They have used their firewood to cook their evening meal. They have drunk the last of their water jars, thinking they will reach the oasis by morning. The land pilot, exhausted by the weeks of watching, feels his eyelids becoming heavy. He tells himself he will only rest them for a moment. He tells himself the navigator star is steady. The land pilot said to himself, "Just a moment. Just a blink. The navigator is there, pulsing like a heartbeat. The wagons are so loud, creak, creak, like a cradle. I am only resting my eyelids. I am not sleeping." But the silence of the desert is a lullaby. The rhythmic swaying of the wagon is a cradle. The pilot falls into a deep, dreamless sleep. His hand relaxes on the guide rope. The lead ox, sensing no direction, follows the natural curve of a great dune. Behind it, one by one, the 499 wagons follow. They are no longer heading toward the edge of the desert. They are turning in a great slow circle, heading back into the heart of the waste. The sun begins to rise. It is not a gentle sunrise. It is a sharp, burning line of fire that cuts across the horizon. The land pilot wakes with a start. He looks at the sky. He looks at the sun. A cry of pure agony breaks from his throat. "The stars! Where are the stars? The sun! It's in the wrong place. The North Star should be behind us, but it's... oh, gods!" "Turn the wagons," he screams. "Turn the oxen. The stars lied to me, or I lied to the stars. We have walked in a circle. We are back where we started last night." The realization ripples through the caravan like a wave of cold water. The men leap from the wagons, staring at the ground. They see their own tracks from the night before, already being filled with the drifting sand. The panic is absolute. "There is no water," a young driver cries, his voice cracking. "We broke the jars. We poured the last of the water onto the sand because we thought we were home." "There is no wood," another screamed. "We burned the timber for the rice. We have nothing to cook with. We have nothing to drink. We are going to die in the sand." The panic is like a wildfire. The men throw themselves onto the ground, weeping and wailing. They pull their robes over their heads, hiding from the sun that is already beginning to turn the desert into a furnace. The men leap from the wagons, staring at the endless shimmering yellow dunes. There is no green, there is no end. The heat begins to rise, a physical weight that anchors them to the spot. They are defeated, they have given up, they are waiting for the end. In the center of this chaos, the Bodhisattva stands alone. He does not weep, he does not scream. He stands with his feet planted firmly in the sand, his eyes scanning the horizon. He knows that the earth does not exist without the water that sustains it. He knows that even in the heart of the Vanupatha there is a secret. He sees a patch of kusa grass. It is a tiny, pale tuft of green, almost invisible against the yellow dunes. He walks towards it, his steps slow and deliberate. He kneels in the sand. He touches the grass. It is cool. It is supple. It is alive.
"Listen to me," the merchant calls out. His voice is a physical weight, a grounding force that cuts through the screams of the men. "Be still. Do you want to die as cowards, or do you want to live as men who found the river in the sand? Look at this grass. Why is it green when the world is brown? Why is it cool when the air is fire? It is because beneath us, deep in the dark places of the earth, there is water." The men look at him with hollow eyes. "It is just a weed, master," one says. "We are thirsty." The merchant replied, "It is not a weed. It is a messenger. There is water here. Deep down, hidden from the sun, the earth is holding a secret. Ananda, bring the iron spade. We do not move from this spot until the earth gives up its life." The men weakly replied, "The sand is 20 feet deep. It's too hot. We can't dig. The sand will just fall back in. We have no strength to dig." "If you do not dig, you are already dead," the merchant says. "Ananda, bring the spade. We shall find the water, or we shall find our rest, but we shall not find our end in fear. I shall dig first. Each of you take a turn. 10 minutes of effort for a lifetime of breath. Dig." The merchant takes the first strike. The iron spade hits the sand with a soft thud. He flings a shovelful over his shoulder, then another. Scrape, toss, scrape, toss. It is a new rhythm, a rhythm of hope. The men watch him, and slowly, one by one, the spark of life returns to their eyes. They join him. They dig a pit 5 feet across. They dig down through the hot surface sand. They dig into the cooler, damper layers beneath. Imagine the physical sensation of the dig, the sweat stinging the eyes, the grit of the sand in the throat, the ache in the muscles. But as they go deeper, the air in the hole becomes cool. It smells of wet stone. They reach 10 feet, 15 feet. They are standing in a narrow shaft of shadow, the sun a distant, blazing eye above them. They hit something hard. Clang! The sound vibrates up through the spade and into the arms of the digger. It is a slab of solid rock, a massive, gray, immovable shelf of stone that stretches across the bottom of the well. "It is over," the men whisper. "We have reached the floor of the world. There is no water, only the stone." The merchant walked to the edge of the pit. He did not look at the sun, and he did not look at the despairing faces of his men. He looked down into the darkness of the well.
He felt a stillness in his heart that was deeper than the desert. He knew that the kusa grass had not lied. He knew that the life he had sensed beneath the sand was not a mirage. The men climb out of the hole, their faces gray with despair. They lie in the sand once more, their last bit of strength gone. But the merchant does not move. He climbs down into the pit. He kneels on the rock. He presses his ear to the cold, hard surface. He closes his eyes. He stops his own breath. He listens. Deep beneath the stone, he hears it. It is not a roar, and it is not a splash. It is a low, rhythmic thrumming, a rushing, liquid heartbeat, the sound of the world's blood moving through the veins of the stone. The sun reached its zenith, and the heat of the waterless waste became a physical presence, a heavy golden cloak that smothered the breath and scorched the very thoughts of the 500 men. They lay in the shadows of their wagons, their faces pressed into the cooling sand, their bodies hollowed out by a thirst that felt like a fire burning in the center of their chests. The hole they had dug sat in the center of the camp like an open mouth, silent and empty, save for the massive, flat slab of stone that mocked their efforts from 20 feet below. The merchant climbs out of the well and looks at a young lad, a mere boy who had been the most energetic of the diggers. "You," the merchant says, "I saw the strength in your arms. I saw the light in your eyes. I want you to go down. I want you to take this iron mallet." The young man who had been digging sat at the edge of the pit, his head in his hands. The boy looks at the heavy hammer. His voice was a dry rattle as he spoke. "Master, there is no use. We have reached the bones of the earth. Master, I can barely stand. The rock is too thick. The stone is cold and dry. It is as if the desert has put a lid on the water to keep us from it. My strength is gone. My hope is gone. Let us lie here and wait for the end." "I am going down," the merchant said. His voice was steady and calm, a cool stream of sound in the middle of the heat. "Give me the iron mallet, and send down the lad who still has a spark of courage in his eyes." He climbed down the rope, his hands gripping the rough hemp. As he descended, the temperature dropped. The air became thick and smelling of ancient earth. When his feet touched the flat surface of the rock, he knelt. He pressed his ear against the cold, jagged stone. He closed his eyes. He stopped his own breath. He listened. Deep beneath the stone, he hears it. It is not a roar, and it is not a splash. It is a low, distant humming, a vibration, a secret melody of the deep. It was the sound of the world's blood moving through the veins of the stone. He stood up and looked at the young lad who had followed him down. The boy was trembling, his eyes wide with exhaustion and fear. "Do you hear it?" the merchant asked. The boy shook his head. "I hear nothing, master, only the ringing in my ears." "Listen closer," the Bodhisattva whispered. "Beneath the silence, beneath your fear, the water is there. It is waiting for us to let it breathe. This rock is not a wall, it is a door. I want you to take this iron mallet. I want you to strike the center of the stone. Do not strike it with your muscles. Strike it with your life. Strike it with the thought of the 500 men above us who are waiting for a single drop." The
The rock is a shell, and the life is inside. You are not hitting stone. You are hitting the door to your own survival. One blow. Put everything you have, every memory of your mother's face, every dream of the green fields of Benares, every breath you have ever taken, put it all into the mallet. The boy took the heavy iron mallet. It felt like a mountain in his hands. He looked at the vast gray expanse of the rock beneath his feet. "I cannot, master. I am too weak." The merchant placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. The warmth of his touch seemed to flow through the boy's skin, into his bones, and into his heart. "You are not weak. You are the one who will bring the river to the desert. One strike, only one." The boy stands on the rock. The air is cold and still. He raises the mallet. He thinks of the 500 men above him. He thinks of the thirsty oxen. He thinks of his brothers sleeping in the shade of the wagons. He thinks of the wise merchant's eyes. He swung the iron. Clang! The sound was deafening in the narrow space of the well. The vibration traveled up through their legs and into their chests. The rock did not break. "Again," the merchant said. Clang! A small crack appeared, a thin white line like a bolt of lightning in the gray stone. Again! The boy swung with everything he had. The iron mallet met the stone with a sound that seemed to shatter the very silence of the desert. The sound is like a thunderclap in the narrow space. The slab of stone split in two. For a heartbeat, there was a profound, terrifying stillness. And then the earth begins to roar. A sound like 1,000 whispers began to rise, a low, rushing gurgle. A jet of water, as thick as a palm tree and as clear as a diamond, erupted from the crack. It was a fountain of silver and ice, rising up the shaft, hitting the top of the well with a magnificent, liquid splash. The men at the top of the well heard the roar. The men at the top scream, but this time it is a scream of pure, ecstatic joy. They scrambled to the edge, their eyes wide with disbelief. They saw the silver spray rising out of the earth. They see the boy and the merchant climbing out, drenched and laughing, as the water followed them up, filling the pit, turning the dry sand into a dark, rich mud.
The camp was transformed in an instant. The men did not cheer, they wept. They fell to their knees and cupped the water in their hands. It was so cold it made their teeth ache. It was so sweet it made their hearts swell. The men drink until they can drink no more. They lead the oxen to the pool. Listen to the sound of 1,000 thirsty animals drinking, a long rhythmic slurping, a chorus of life returning to the waste. The oxen shake their heads, spraying water over the men, their eyes bright and clear once more.
The merchant stood in the center of the camp as the sun began to set. The air was no longer a furnace. It was filled with a fine, cool mist from the well. "We have found the water," he told his men, "but we still have a league to travel. We have no wood for our fires, and we have no coal to cook our rice, but we have life, and where there is life, there is a way." He looked at the wagons. He saw the extra axles and the spare yokes made of seasoned timber. "Break the spare wood," he commanded.
We do not need extra parts if we have reached the end. We shall use the wood of our own wagons to cook our meal. We shall feast on the edge of the desert. The fires were lit. The scent of cooking rice and savory spices drifted out over the dunes, a smell that the waste had not known for 1,000 years. The men sat together, eating slowly, savoring every grain. They talked in low, peaceful voices about the homes they would return to and the families they would see. The fear was gone. The desert was no longer a monster. It was simply a road they were walking. As the moon rises again, the caravan moves for the final time. They crossed the last league. They reached the edge of the desert before the sun could rise again. They reached the city of their destination and sold their goods for a price that would keep their families in comfort for many years. They sell their goods for a fortune, but the gold is not the treasure they carry home. The treasure is the knowledge that the water is always there, beneath the stone, waiting for the one who will not stop striking. Back in the monastery of Jataka, the Buddha looked at the monk who had wanted to give up. The grove was silent now, the moon high and watchful. The Buddha looked at the discouraged monk. The monk's eyes were no longer hollow. They were bright with a new understanding. "Do you see, brother?" the Buddha asked. The lad in the pit thought he had hit a wall of stone. He thought his labor was in vain, but the stone was the only thing standing between him and the river. If he had stopped one strike too soon, 500 men would have perished in the sand. You are the boy in the well. Your meditation is the mallet. Your doubt is the stone. You think you have reached the end of your strength, but you have only reached the shell. Do not stop digging. The water is just beneath your feet. One more strike, one more breath. The river is waiting for you. The monk bowed his head. The weight in his heart had vanished, replaced by a steady, quiet strength. He realized that the sandy road was not a path of distance, but a path of persistence. He did not turn back. He went back to his cell and he sat. He listened for the heartbeat beneath the stone. Imagine yourself now resting in the cool shadow of that memory. Your journey through the day is over. The desert of your worries is behind you. You have found the water in the deep places of your own mind. You have broken the stone. The rhythm of the caravan is fading into the distance. The bells are quiet. The fires are low. The oxen are sleeping. The wagons are still. The stars above you are not guides anymore. They are companions. They watch over you with a soft, flickering light. The indigo sky is a vast, cooling blanket. You are lying in the grass at the edge of the oasis. The sound of the wind in the leaves is a lullaby, a long, slow whisper that tells you everything is as it should be. You are safe. You are wise. You are at rest. Every breath you take is a cool, clear sip of water from that ancient well. Every exhale is a letting go of the heat and the dust. Your limbs are heavy. Your eyes are closed. You are drifting into a sleep that is as deep and as peaceful as the water beneath the sand. The monastery is silent. The desert is peaceful. The water is flowing. The journey is complete.
Sleep, sleep, sleep.